Hi, hello, and welcome to our webcast discussion for June 3, 2016. My name is Christian Lebré, and this is Amy Asbrook, the director of Toujours Vivant, Not Dead Yet.
Hello.
Toujours Vivant, Not Dead Yet is an organization by and for people with disabilities and our allies. Our goal is to inform, unify, and give voice to the disability right opposition to assisted suicide, euthanasia, and other ending of life practices that discriminates against people with disabilities. Today's topics: Bill 614, adopted by
C14.
6C-14, adopted by the House of Commons. Second subject, June 1st rally recap. And the third one, a woman with MS is allowed physician assistance death. So Amy Asbrook will lead us to this discussion.
Thanks. Bill C14, adopted by the House of Commons. On Tuesday, members of the House of Commons voted 186 to 137 to approve Bill C14 to regulate euthanasia and assisted suicide. So we already knew that they were going to approve it. It was just that was the score. That was the final score.
The score is very close of the majority of the Liberals at the House of Commons.
Yeah, you said that a few Liberals voted against it and a few Conservatives voted for it.
So, something like for each side, so it's one going against the other.
Yeah, so it was pretty much along party lines. Not surprising. The final version of the bill contained few changes from the original. There were some amendments, but not too many. In fact, there were over 100 amendments submitted, but only a very few of them passed.
2 or 3, I think.
A few, yeah.
Maybe 4, but not more.
Yeah. One amendment clarified that a person must meet all of the eligibility criteria. So it implied it, but it didn't state it clearly, and so now it's stated clearly.
Yeah.
And by the same token, the definition of grievous and irremediable medical condition was clarified to require all of the elements of the definition. So you have to have all of them, including that the natural death is reasonably foreseeable. So those were 2 clarifications, I guess I would say. The MPs did add language recognizing the conscience rights of medical professionals, stating, quote, "Nothing in this section compels an individual to provide or assist in providing medical assistance in dying."
This will help really much palliative care house, something like that.
Right, exactly. That means palliative care, that means hospices will be able to continue their mission of neither accelerating nor delaying natural death. And it will also make it possible for them to provide a euthanasia-free space, which a lot of people, as you were saying before.
Yeah, it's needed by people who have deep depression. And when they're feeling good, they want to be protected from the time they are feeling bad.
Yeah.
Okay. And most of those people want to live and know that life is precious, but they want to be protected against those kind of law.
Right, exactly. Also on the positive side, the House added a section providing that, quote, "If the person has difficulty communicating, the doctor or nurse practitioners shall take all necessary measures to provide a reliable means by which the person may understand the information that is provided to them and communicate their decision." And that's a very good and necessary thing. It's something that we were advocating for, and it helps people regardless of whether
they are for or against this law.
Right, exactly. So the one problem with this, I was thinking about it when we were doing the French version, is that this could allow a person in the family still to be the translator.
Yeah.
And that's not a good thing, because sometimes if a person in the family is speaking on behalf of, the person who's supposedly making the request, and the person doesn't really want to be making a request, or isn't, the family member isn't communicating accurately what the person is saying, that can create problems.
Yeah.
So
it's still have a weak possibility that something happened, but it is still possible.
it still leaves it open. So that's why we were asking for professional qualified interpreters and speech language pathologists to be the people who provided the communication help, so that it would be a neutral person. The House did not remove the sections that allow any person to, quote, do anything to, quote, help with the assisted suicide, unquote, even if they have a, quote, reasonable but mistaken belief, unquote, about the request for assisted suicide. And that's a pretty bad situation. It was something that we were trying to get rid of, because it means really anybody, either when it's being euthanasia done in a hospital or when it's assisted suicide done at home, it allows anybody to help, even if they...
The janitor of the place. Or
right,
whatever.
exactly. Even if they can claim that, oh, well, my uncle wanted assisted suicide, even if uncle didn't want assisted suicide. But if they say they had a reasonable but mistaken belief that uncle wanted assisted suicide, they can get away with it.
Yeah.
Nor did it close the loophole that allows an heir to fill out the request on behalf of somebody who can't complete the form independently. They did put in terms that say the person has to act under the direct supervision of, or under directed by the person, but it still doesn't take out heirs and people who could inherit out of that equation. And that's where the problem is.
The door is still open.
Right, exactly. And, it seems like that should be kind of a no-brainer, but I don't know why they didn't want to do it. Also, the MPs reduced the cooling off period from 15 days to 10 days. And that's a problem, because if somebody's depressed and they are put on antidepressants, well, those antidepressants can take 2 weeks or more to have effect.
So if you ask for assisted suicide on the first day, you may receive the permission to be to be killed before to be treated a little bit. Before
the medication actually takes effect, and you might change your mind, but it's too late.
Too late. You receive the permission, and maybe you are dead.
Right, exactly. Aside from protecting patients from external pressure, the law still includes no provision for vulnerability assessment to determine the person's circumstances might create an inducement to commit suicide, nor does the House version guarantee access to palliative care or home care services. So we know about the external pressures. It's when nephew says, uncle, you should really take assisted suicide because you're a burden on us and blah, blah, blah. That's easy to say, no, you can't do that. But those subtle pressures where a vulnerability assessment is necessary is when somebody doesn't want to go into a nursing home because they don't want to live like that, but there's no alternative for them. There's no home care services or palliative care services. So the fact is that even though in the preamble of the law they say, well, we want to have palliative care services, that isn't in the law itself. It isn't in the main body of the law. There's no guarantee that there'd be palliative care services or home care services. So senators have promised to introduce amendments to both strengthen and weaken the law. In the version voted out of the Senate is, oh, I'm sorry, if the version voted out of the Senate is not the same as the one voted by the House, the Senate version will be sent back to the House for its approval.
Yeah.
Few people expect it to be completed by the Supreme Court's deadline, and that deadline is coming up on Monday, and they're not going to work over the weekend.
We are Friday, and that's it. It's finished already.
Right.
Unless they vote it at midnight somewhere today.
Right.
I don't know.
Or, yeah, unless, if the bill is not passed by June 6th, it will fall to the provinces to regulate assisted suicide until a law is adopted. And only Quebec has a law governing the practice of euthanasia. And again, the Quebec law does not allow for assisted suicide. It only allows for euthanasia. And Quebec is the only province that has a law. Now, one thing the government could do is it could say, we're just going to keep operating the way we've done so far with allowing approval by a judge for anybody who wants assisted suicide until the law is passed.
We know that it's already working well.
Right, exactly. That system is working well. We'll talk about a person who's gotten the right to have assisted suicide under that system. And so we know it works, and we could continue that until the law is passed. So that's one option.
And the other way is that the government could do what they call, I call it in French, I call it my memory. Quand un gouvernement dit voici une loi.
Oh, an edict.
Okay, the government could do an edict, at least temporary, because he's elected, and he's not always, he's not forced to follow the court.
Right, exactly.
The court is one decision, but the government have the final decision.
Right, so the government could simply declare that this is what's going to happen until the law is passed.
Yeah.
Okay, the next topic is June 1st rally recap. About 400 people gathered near the steps of Parliament on Wednesday for a rally to show their opposition to assisted suicide and euthanasia. It was a pretty lively crowd.
Oh yes, it was nice.
Especially since most of the people were elderly or people with disabilities. So.
Oh yes, it's kind of impressive because moving elderly people or handicapped people is very, very, very tough. And if you ask for ordinary people, you could multiply the crowd by 4 at least.
Right.
So this 400 people is, for me, at least as impressive as 1,600 people.
Right. And also, since it was on a weekday, no working people couldn't really come out.
Yes, it is.
So it was a pretty good crowd for a work day.
Yeah.
And they were lively, very lively.
And I had wished that media react a little bit more than they have. We saw a few articles, but very few.
Right. We didn't see any television coverage, but we didn't actually look for any television coverage.
Yeah.
The rally was sponsored by the Euthanasia Prevention Coalition, the Physician Collective Against Euthanasia, and Living with Dignity. The rally included speeches from several MPs and senators who thanked the attendees for coming and who pledged to amend Bill C-14. Among the speakers were Senator Betty Unger, Senator Tobias Enverga, and MP Harold Albrecht.
Yeah, but there was not alone. Amy was speaking too,
Right.
and many more. At least I think there was something like 10 speakers.
Yeah, there were quite a few people. I was surprised at how many politicians came and spoke. Even we had, there were 6 or 7 speakers planned, and then a bunch of politicians showed up. So
Yeah.
that was great.
Yeah.
The rally featured a die-in where over 200 people lay down on the lawn in simulated body bags.
It was good and impressive too.
Yeah, To signify the casualties of the assisted suicide program, the crowd chanted, "Assistance to live, not to die," and "Killing is not care," as the media filmed the protesters laid out on the lawn. So it looked very good. It was very impressive to see all those people laid out on the lawn. We were looking from the middle of the steps to the Parliament, and
Yeah,
you could see down.
We was packing our banner that was there,
Yeah.
and have the thing to do.
Yep. So it was a good rally, and we got our message across. Unfortunately, there wasn't as much press coverage as we would like, and that is a chronic problem that we have with this movement, that the mainstream press doesn't like to cover us. Whenever an issue comes up, they always talk to the head of Dying with Dignity, but they don't talk to people on the other side. Okay, a woman with multiple sclerosis is allowed physician-assisted death. On Monday, a Manitoba court approved the assisted suicide of an unidentified woman known in court filings as patient number 3, as she's the third person from Manitoba who's asked for assisted.
Which is nice, that not having the name, we respect the privacy,
Right.
but we doesn't have enough information for following the effect of this law.
Right, exactly. And with these court proceedings, that gets out more information than is made public in Quebec, because we know that more than 50 people in Quebec have already taken advantage of the euthanasia law, but we don't have any information about those people. So at least with a court decision, there's some information on the record about what's happening.
The privacy is still respected,
Right.
which is very good, but we need information
Right.
to follow all those things happening
Right.
in the future. With this information collection, we could improve what's happening.
Right, and we will know if the safeguards are being met. We'll know if people really are eligible, or if they're letting in people who are not eligible. Those are important things to know, and only documenting the program can tell us that.
Yes, it is.
The woman in Manitoba who has MS is functionally a quadriplegic and uses a ventilator, as well as having uncontrolled nerve pain. Now, we talked about this earlier in the French broadcast. We have a friend who also has MS and who has very severe neuropathy, nerve pain. And she was able to get a very specialized treatment for that nerve pain, and it managed to knock out the nerve pain enough so that she was able to be much more comfortable and function again. And this is a situation where obviously we don't know the facts of this case, but you kind of wonder if this woman got all the treatment that she could use for the nerve pain, because my friend went to Boston, to specialists in Boston who, gave her this very advanced treatment. And it's not that it was that expensive, but these are specialists who know how to deal with nerve pain. And you sort of wonder if this person in Manitoba got the treatment that she really needed for her nerve pain.
We really think that it's a doctor trouble, not a trouble that it could not be fixed.
It could be just a problem that her doctor doesn't know all the options or hasn't pursued all the choices. So,
and it's happened more time than you could believe.
Right. We don't know. This is something we definitely don't know, but that is a possibility.
We don't know the detail, but we are sure that a lot of people suffer and they shouldn't.
Right. A lot of people have pain that shouldn't have pain because they're not getting adequate treatment. According to court documents, the woman considered having her feeding tube removed, but decided against it. And of course, she wouldn't have had to have assisted suicide if she had decided to remove her feeding tube and have palliative sedation until she died naturally.
It is already his right without any law.
Right. Those are already options that people can take advantage of. Clear as to whether the patient number 3 would qualify for assisted suicide under Bill C-14, since the person's death must be reasonably foreseeable. Multiple sclerosis is a disease that has a long survival rate. So MS, doesn't necessarily cut your life short. And so it's not clear if this person had a reasonably foreseeable death and whether she would have qualified for Bill C-14.
But it's depend on how you looking things. If you say this person could not breathe by herself, she is eligible. But if you say that this people could still breathe in with machine and have a certain life, okay, she doesn't qualify.
Right.
Which way somebody will choose.
Right, exactly. So there are many reasons that's the end of the main topic. There are many reasons to oppose the legalization of assisted suicide and euthanasia. Here are just a few. First, because it's unnecessary. Everyone already has the option to commit suicide or refuse medical care, like we just talked about, and have palliative sedation on demand. Also, it's discriminatory because while people without disabilities receive suicide prevention services if they express a wish to die, people with disabilities will be encouraged and assisted to kill themselves. Also, the choice to die cannot be free as long as people with disabilities don't have the choice in where and how to live. And because of discrimination, that is the case for most people with disabilities, that without proper home care and for people at the end of life, palliative care and pain management, people don't have a real choice in whether to live or die. And finally, the safeguards don't work where the practices are legal. Safeguards don't prevent people with disabilities from being wrongly killed. The goal of our online discussions is to give people a place to talk about these issues among ourselves from our point of view, to recognize our experience and expertise in dealing with discrimination and the medical system, and to take our place in the public debate aside from conservatives and quote-unquote progressives. To view our videos, we now have more than 70 podcasts or webcasts available for viewing. To view them, go to YouTube or a search engine and input the terms euthanasia and disability, and you'll find our videos. To participate live, send me your email address and I'll give you our email address, and I'll send you a link that'll arrive about 15 minutes before the webcast. For more information about the subjects that we talk about, visit our Facebook page at facebook.com/toujours vivant, not dead yet, all one word. You can go to our website at tvndy.ca, and if you don't use Facebook, you can see our Facebook postings on our website. You can email us at info@tv-ndy.ca, or you can follow us on Twitter @TVNDY. Thanks to Christian for helping out.
Thank you, Amy.
And thank you for being there.
Take care.
Take care till
See
next
you
time.
soon. Bye.
Bye.